But another thing off that I really am intrigued with, I did read that you are a pretty big vinyl collector and quite a big audio fan. Sorry. So my question with this, sorry, I had a brain fart there for a moment. Yes. Oh my God. Led Zeppelin 4. Dude,
Led Zeppelin 4.
My favorite band of all time. Yes, with the Stairway to Heaven.
Yes.
Oh my God. I was literally listening to that yesterday.
I mean,
one of the GOAT albums.
There's a reason, like, I have just one of my redeems on my channel is show off a vinyl. Yeah, and I have, oh my gosh, like here's a rare one of the first 10,000 pressings of Eye in the Sky by Alan Parsons Project. Alan Parsons was one of the sound engineers for Dark Side of the Moon, for Abbey Road, for the Beatles, and this is part of his solo work. So like I have like original pressings. I have this very rare Overture of 1812 by Tchaikovsky, where instead of timpanis, they did it as Tchaikovsky asked and played it with cannons.
What?
So there are legit cannons being fired to make this piece. What? I have some, like, everyone knows, like, come on.
I mean, classic.
Every 90s kid knows this.
Do you think
it's just, yeah.
Do you think
I have several hundred.
When it comes to like listening to music on vinyl versus streaming it, I don't have a vinyl player myself. I've never gotten into that, but I love music. Is it the ritual kind of experience of listening to it on vinyl that makes it for you?
So I have a very, very high-end system. So there's like, I draw a line here. The ritual is amazing, but there is more you get out of a song if you listen to it in the way it was originally recorded and originally intended. So music from 50s, 60s, 70s, and even 80s were designed to be played on a record, and on a record player, sitting there listening to it and having that ritual that ties you to it, having this, like, the wonderful huge artwork with all these little facts and the lyrics inside the album. They get to express more artistry of what that they created rather than just the audio that you are listening to when you're streaming. But really, it is very challenging for someone to tell the difference between vinyl and digital. So if you want to jump into vinyl, if you want it just for the ritual, go for it. If you want it to be better,
don't go for it.
Buck up with a lot of cash. It is a lot to make your vinyl like be able to be noticeably better than what the streaming service is. So if a song was originally recorded in a digital recording studio, pretty much any modern music, like if I'm going to listen to Bjork, I'm not listening to her on vinyl. I have Bjork vinyl, but I'm not going to listen to it on vinyl. I'm going to listen to it in the actual digital recording straight from the masters and enjoy it that way, because it's going through less steps to get to you. Whereas vinyl, like, I search for original pressing to get the sound as close to what it was supposed to be. It's an addiction.
That's very interesting. I never thought of it that way, like specifically with how it was specifically at that time period made, using the hardware available at that time to mimic the experience. That I never really connected those pieces together. I know with vinyls, there's a collection aspect of it, right? Like each one it's almost like a book and a collection that you can hold
exactly.
it, you can feel it, you can take the artwork out and the lyrics, and that would be why I would want to start a vinyl collection.
You're closer to the interaction,
right?
And it's that's really cool and really fun aspect of it. But know that know the limitations when you're getting into it. If you're saying it's going to be the best sounding thing ever, it may not. Be prepared for it to not be. And like I'm never one to tell people you need to spend all your money to get to this point. And I'm there to say, hey, here's be realistic here, and I don't want you wasting your money on something you think is going to be amazing and just really isn't commonly for you.
I've always thought it would be fun to, like, just get a cheaper record player and essentially just have it for like albums that are very special that I'm gonna listen to the day I die, like albums like Dark Side of the Moon, Led Zeppelin, I mean all Led Zeppelin albums.
Oh yeah.
Just like incredible albums that are just like a staple of my life, and not so much as like I've never heard of this band or this song before, I'm gonna buy a vinyl of it. Like that's not exactly the way of going about it, just more of this is something that's so personal and dear to me, and I'm gonna be 90, 100 years old still listening to this music. So that's where the collection would come in. I do gotta ask, on the Led Zeppelin 4 album you have, is that the one where it only has the Stairway lyrics in it? Or does it have like a Black Dog, Rock and Roll, Battle of Evermore? Because I think it was Led Zeppelin 4, they only had the lyrics to Stairway to Heaven on it. I don't believe they had any of the other songs.
There it is. I mean, let's look. It's right here.
It's such a good album.
It is such a good album.
I do usually end up skipping the song Four Sticks. For whatever reason, that one never stuck with me. Ooh.
Only Stairway lyrics. Only Stairway lyrics.
I know that song is so overplayed, and it's like the band even themselves think there's so many other songs that they have that are great, but there's something, I still get chills driving on the freeway and Stairway to Heaven comes on the radio. I still get cheers like every step of the way. I still watch videos about it. That was one of the songs, like when I was learning to play guitar, I'm like, I have to, as cheesy as it is, it's cheesy because it's so overplayed, but it is such a special song.
Are you the guy that gets the dirty look in the guitar store when you start playing Stairway to Heaven?
I honestly don't know if I've ever played Stairway. Actually, I did play Stairway to Heaven on the piano one time at Guitar Center, and I got a pass on that one.
Okay, good.
But I did end up, I went to Guitar Center one time and they had the double neck guitar that Jimmy Page would use. And they let me like strap it on and try it. And I was like 15-year-old kid. I have no idea why they would let me do that now that I'm thinking about it. But that thing was like 30 pounds. That was such a heavy guitar to play.
It's a Gibson SG double neck, right?
It is. And it was the red one. And it was just, it was awesome. It was an experience. But I ended up getting a Les Paul. That was like my my wedding gift to myself. My wife said, we're like looking at guitars, and Guitar Center had a used one that someone had bought, and they returned it after a week, and it had like a slight microscopic little kind of chip on it, and it was like $500 off, and it was like same one that Jimmy Page had used, and it was just I couldn't press the buy button because it was so expensive, and I'm like, I've always wanted it, but I $2,000 for a guitar, like what the F, like why? And she ended up, she like grabbed the computer and she bought it, and I'm like, oh my god. See, the thing with instruments though, and guitars and saxophones and just like instruments in general, is I always see them as like art pieces that you can take off the wall and play,
100%. Like I still have my my SG Special that I pull out of the case every now and then and look at it. I'm like, you're so nice. I never touch you anymore though.
They're so beautiful. They really, really are. Whether you use them for playing all the time or even just hang them up and play them occasionally. Like there's so many times I'll look over, and I don't have my Les Paul now because it's at the shop getting set up.
Good.
I
remember we had the conversation that there was like some fretboard issues or some truss rod issues going on with it.
Yeah, a week or so ago. What ended up happening was I was playing. I'm really aggressive playing. I went through a huge Stevie Ray Vaughan phase growing up, and so pretty much all of his playing is like hitting as hard as possible in some instances. So I've just always developed a habit of like playing guitar extremely aggressively, and so I break my guitar strings like every single month essentially. And I broke the high E string, and I was like, it's fine, I'll kind of roll with it for a little bit. And then I broke the G string, and then I broke the A string like 5 minutes later, and I'm like, okay, I should probably take it in now and get this everything all set up again for it. But that was a little bit of a tangent, my bad. Do you play any instruments yourself? Do you obviously play guitar?
I used to. I used to play guitar and I used to play piano. Those are two things that I have let fall by the wayside as the journey of life has pushed me forward.
Do you ever think you'll pick either of them back up, or just maybe sparingly?
Here's a fun story. One, I'll start out. I'm okay, so we'll start out with that story. But when I was 19, I was bit on the back of my left elbow by a black widow, and so I have like my left hand is permanently numb.
What?
From the nerve damage from the neurotoxin of the black widow.
Like, you can poke it with a knife and
I could barely feel anything.
What?
So hitting the frets is a little bit harder for me nowadays. So it's just, I haven't put the effort into it and just focused on doing other things.
Wow. Did you get to like a hospital pretty quick after you got bit, or?
I did, but there's like, honestly, with a black widow bite, there's not much they can do unless you're having a really bad reaction just to stabilize you. Just the neurotoxin is going to run its course. If you don't look like you're dying, there's not much they can do.
Really? Like, if you were in that state of having an adverse reaction or dying or something, like, what would they do? Do they just stick you with a needle and antibiotics?
They can. Well, it's not antibiotics because since it's not a bacterial thing going on, they'll just make sure that you have enough adrenaline in your system to start pumping it out. They make sure your oxygen levels are at the appropriate level, that things are just, your body's working properly, and to like enhance what's starting to shut down to make sure that you keep going. That's
terrifying. That is just, I'm not a spider fan at all myself. Spiders are just up there for things I'm just not into. So Black Widow,
weird.
My God.
Don't bug me.
Oh,
spiders don't bug me, and
after
I have every reason to hate them. Nope, they don't bug me at all.
Oh, spiders! I'm not a fan.